Hey guys, Shanna Cramer here with Creatively Uncorked. Today we're going to paint the Welcome Snowman. This is going to be an acrylic painting, and we're just going to use a few basic colors I'll get to in just a minute. We're starting with a blank canvas here, so I just want to do some quick sketching. So our snowman, he's going to be a big fat snowman. Big old... There we go. Big old snowman. Okay, so there's top, middle, bottom. Between the top and the middle, we're going to have a scarf. So just make some long hanging down scarf. Okay. We'll have, of course, it'll have buttons of some kind and a big old nose because it's a snowman. Give it a couple of eyes and a big old smile. Have I said big old too many times? Nah. All right. So this snowman is friends with a bird, and so the bird is heart-shaped, roughly. So I'm just making kind of a heart shape there, and the bird's beak is going on the end of it. Okay, so I got the back of the head, back of the wing. Okay, it's gonna have little feet. Let's see, how about an eye? Okay, so now it's gonna have feet that come right down here and meet up with the snowman's arm. Okay, I think that's enough sketching. I'll have the word welcome over here just because it's the Welcome Snowman. And let's do this. All right, so I'm starting out with my background is going to be brown. So I'm just taking some burnt umber, and this is acrylic paint. Acrylic paint dries quickly and it dries permanently. So we'll use it to build up layers. And when the first layer is dry, we'll add another layer. I'm just going to put out all my colors right now because, or almost all my colors. All right, I've got brown, white, red, and a little bit of yellow. The only other color I'll be using is black, and I don't want to put that out quite yet. All right, I have my cup of water, my paper towel, my paper plate for a palette, and this is my 1/2-inch flat brush. And this I'm going to use to cover the background. So I have an idea now. Actually, let's trace that. Okay, so the reason I'm tracing this is because Sharpie is really hard to paint over and to cover it up. So I just want to kind of pull out that bird so I don't forget where it is. And how about also that nose? Since they do have to connect. Okay, I think I can leave it at that. Yeah. All right. So Sharpie is hard to cover, so putting where I'm going to be painting here with a dark background, I do want that there. But over here where I'm not going to be painting with a dark background, it doesn't matter quite as much. So I'm just going to start over here with some little white, little brown, both colors on the brush. Yeah, and just drag the brush vertically across the canvas all the way to the top to all the way to the bottom. And if it's not filling in very nicely, you might want to add a touch more water or maybe just use a little more paint. So you can see with the Sharpie, it is still showing through. And I do want to paint slightly over the edges, carefully. And I say carefully because if you paint like up to here and then leave this blank, when you paint white over it, you're still going to see that line. So we'll paint carefully in the way that's going to minimize the look of the lines once we're done painting. One of the ways I'm doing that is just let the lines fade out. So I'm just lifting off with the brush and just letting that line fade out and disappear. Okay. So there's my background layer. If you are taking a break, now would be a good time to stop and let this dry. And we'll come back when this is dry and finish painting. So go ahead and pause your video and hit play when you're ready to go. All right, I think this one is dry enough for rock and roll. So if you tilt your painting to the side and you see the reflections and if it looks shiny, that means your painting is still wet. So there are a couple of wet spots still in this painting, but I'm going to be painting over here now. So I'll start with the white and cover all of the parts that are the snowman. And yes, that orange nose is also a snowman. So just lightly cover it with white, just a super, super thin layer of white, just to brighten it up a little. So when I put the orange over, the orange will still show up. There's that scarf. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking we probably should have stopped at the edge with the brown, but no, because we've got the vertical streaks of brown and it needs to look like it's going behind the snowman. And if you stopped right at the edge, there's no way it would look like it's behind the snowman. So you kind of have to just do that first and then move on to the rest. All right. Now, once I've got the edge done, now I'm just kind of going over the snowman one section at a time. So starting with the head and getting that filled in. Now, if you want to add any other touches of color in here, like maybe a little brown, just kind of give it some shading, you could do that. Let's see, here's that scarf is going to be right there. So right under the scarf might be a little bit of a shadow. And just when you're doing the shading, just sort of follow the curve of the snowballs, snowman sections, whatever you want to call them. Okay, wiping off that paint. Even going to go ahead and just swish out my brush here a little bit here and just dab that on the paper towel to dry it. And now I'm going back into just clean white. Okay. Again, oops. Well, there's my dirty white. And the shaded edge is going around the lower right section of each of those sections. All right, now I'm going to try for clean white, and then I can blend it into that shadow. There we are. Okay. Snowman done. What do you think of that bird? Let's make it, it's going to be a red bird. What do you call it? Cardinal? Let's make a cardinal. So taking the red paint here on that same brush. If you're more comfortable switching to a smaller brush, you can, but I have the medium flat brush. It's a 1/2 inch flat, and this brush works for most things. Some paintings will do entirely with only this brush. Okay, I'm just filling it all in red. Oop, already sticking my elbow in wet paint. Okay, I'm gonna let that be. That's just the background of the red. We'll add another layer, but not yet. Okay, while we're waiting for this to dry a little bit, we can mix up our orange. So for that, I'll switch to the small brush, and this is a small round. The medium brush that we've been using, I'm just going to put that in my water cup and let it sit there until I'm done with my painting session. And then I'll go clean it with water, soap and water. All right, so with my small brush, I'm mixing up a nice orange, which is mostly yellow, a little bit of red. Just mix it until you come up with an orange color that you're happy with. And once you have that, we can do the beak on the bird and the carrot on the snowman. Okay, so now that's gonna get a chance to dry, and while that's drying, I can switch back to my bigger brush and work on that scarf. I'm just trying to give each section a chance to dry a little bit before painting right up to it or right next to it or over it. So I'm going to take yellow, a little white. I'll take this dirty white and mix it in with my yellow. That's just fine. I'm just looking for a nice light base color for the scarf. So I'm not being too picky if it's, a specific shade of whatever. Lovely. Okay, so there's the base shade, and I'll just go right down that whole length of the scarf. Okay, even more lovely. All right, so now we'll go and add the stripes to the scarf. So putting that back, let's see, do I want to do orange stripes? Orange stripes might be nice. Let's do that. Whether you want to use the same shade of orange you used on the nose or whether you want to mix another color in with it, I'm just mixing in a little bit more yellow, a little bit more white, just lighten it up a little bit. And now I can have the stripes on the scarf. So he's got this big kind of a wrinkle. And you can see my colors are blending together, and that's because it's wet onto wet. I have wet paint on the brush, and the paint on the canvas is still wet. To get a more defined, sharp line, you can just wait for it to dry and paint on wet on dry instead. All right, and then some of the fringes at the bottom. There, lovely. And I'll even use some of this orange just kind of to add a shadow a little bit on the bottom of that scarf. There, enough. All right, I think it's time to pour some black paint out. Our fifth color is black, but if I put the black paint on the palette too early, it can be really easy to accidentally put black into the background of your painting. So I try to avoid the darker colors, putting them on the palette until we need them. So here we go. Black paint. I just took a little drop of water on my brush and added that to the black paint. Now I'm just mixing it in. And the black paint is a little thicker than the other colors, so this is just to help the consistency be similar. Get all these things out of my way. All right, so we're going to do some big happy eyes. How do you make happy eyes? You think happy thoughts and paint eyes. They'll turn out happy looking. That's the way it goes. big old smile. Let's see. We've got these little feet in this guy. And he's got some buttons down his front. Oh, lovely. All right. We can add a few more details if we like. Here's one. Let's do some details on that bird. So I'm wiping off most of the paint off of my paintbrush onto the paper towel, and then with a still dirty paintbrush, picking up some red. And this should be turning into a dark red. If it's not enough, you can add a little more black. All right, so here's my dark red, and that's going on the bird, shadow of the bird wing, shadow of the bird belly. Okay, that's enough detail on the bird. Rinsing that brush again. Going into the black. And I'll give it a big old eye. Oh, that's not really a cardinal anymore, is it? Well, I don't think it ever was. And we can use a little bit of black detail if we want to. Just going to turn the canvas so I can get to it easier. So I'm just doing some scribbles. Oh, pick up some more paint here. Kind of like some shadow lines and some scribbles. And that, I think, is enough detail. Nice. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have the word welcome right across here. And this, it's easy enough to do this freehand. It's your own handwriting, so you should know how it works. Okay, there's my word. So taking some white paint, and I'll see if I can hold this so you can see it, but I'm just going pretty much straight on and dragging that brush. One pro tip when you're doing lettering is to only make the downstrokes. So every stroke I'm doing is only going down. So E is 2 strokes. L, same darn thing. Okay, how's that? Handwriting, okay, fine, whatever. Let's do some details. Okay, rinsing out that brush again with the white paint. And I'll just add in a few snowflakes. How about a snowflake there? So I'm just doing a plus, and then I'm doing an X right over the top of it. And then you can add details, whatever details you add it to the rest of the plus or the rest of the X. So I'll just go like a dot here, dot here. And on the rest of them, I'll just do a couple of short lines and a dot out at the end. Pretty cute. And you can just go ahead and make as many of those big snowflakes as you like, get as fancy as you want to. I'm going to just add a few more dots of snow here and there, some snow falling from the sky. And I think the arms are dry by now. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of snow right to the top of that snowman's nose. So picking up a big scoop of snow. And on top of the bird, because you know that bird's been sitting there long enough to get full of snow. And a little bit on top of that snowman's arm. All right, what do you think? Looks good? All right. Well, thank you for painting along with me today. Here is your welcome snowman, and I hope to paint with you again soon.